be using today. If you could grab a towel, we're going to do some core work with a towel and also some calf work with the towel or any kind of article that you could squeeze. And I'm using a tie for a bathrobe, so something that might be a strap. We're going to do some hamstring work. And I'm sitting on my blocks right now, but books work, any kind of object that could work like that. We're going to do, those of you who know things like arm glides, we're going to do some of that stuff, but you don't have to be holding an object. It just is useful for some people. So. And then once you have your things, I'll just take a look to see if folks look settled. And of course, feel free to keep the video on or off, whatever's the most comfortable. And you can set yourself up either seated or laying down for the opening. We're going to open with a body scan. So find a shape that matches what it is you need. And then you can either close the eyes or settle the gaze to one thing. And begin to feel your feet. And this practice called focused breathing. Placing your mind into a spot as you take a high quality breath, so a breath that is nourishing. What works for me is this softening internally first, so I can take a soft, wide inhale, broadening across the sides of the ribs. And then as you exhale, seeing where you can continue to feel for your feet. And what we're working with for our intent this morning is balance. And what I'd like to offer up is this balance of focusing and feeling. And these are the two skills that are inherent in the system of Forrest Yoga, is building the skill of strengthening the ability to focus and strengthening the ability to feel. And they go really hand in hand, because if we over effort on focusing on one thing, it can get too over efforting and contracted. And sometimes if we over feel and open up too much, it can go into flooding and overwhelm. So this balance of learning to pay attention to one thing at a time, as you learn to open up and feel for just the right amount, which is quite an advanced skill, especially at times when there's a lot of uncertainty and things are moving quickly. So just letting whatever part of that that's doable today be enough. And then transitioning from feet to where the feet meet the ankles. Awareness travels from feet to ankles. And then begin to allow the focused breathing to travel through, sometimes called Achilles, sometimes called heel cords, through the back of the heels, into the calf muscles. Sensing where the calf muscles meet shins. Feeling for the whole of the lower legs and feet together, all the toes. And then sensing into the knees. Placing awareness Taking this soft, wide breath, expanding ribs. And then sensing onto either sides of each kneecap, the back of the kneecap. And without even needing to know specifics, there's so many meridians related to the organs when we can bring prana and chi flow to these areas by placing awareness and breathing without even knowing the specifics. And then sensing the lines of inner and outer knee that trace up to inner and outer hips. Sensing back of knee to sit bone line and where the hamstring inserts right at the bottom of the glutes. Sensing the front of the legs. And then continuing to get a sense of the organ ring sitting in the pelvis, the bones of the pelvis. And then beginning to sense the solar plexus area, so also the diaphragm. And just sensing this ability to place your mind into a spot as you breathe and knowing it's normal, the brain will do what it does, which is generate thinking. And without making that wrong, just keep coming back. Sometimes I'll give myself the mantra of just saying, I'm back, when I realize I've gone wherever it is I went. And then coming to feeling into the volume of space in and around the heart, the architecture of the rib cage, holding the lungs and the heart. Feel the upper back. And just notice it's really normal that it may feel blank when you go to put your attention somewhere, and when that comes up for me, I'll just say, oh, it's blank, and not making it wrong. There's no wrong way to do this. Bringing the mind into collarbones, armpits, shoulder blades. Begin to allow awareness to travel through the upper arms. So we're washing heart and lung meridian points here, energizing and balancing, feeling into elbows, sensing where the muscles of the forearm insert into the elbows. Awareness traveling down to the wrists. Feeling for the whole of the wrist on both sides. And both palms, sensing the weight and the presence of the hands, the space in between the fingers. And then bringing the awareness to the throat and the neck. And again, it might show up as blank, normal, just seeing what part of this area can you feel or not as you do your focused breathing. Feel where the jaw begins to connect to the top of the spine. Sensing the base of the skull bones. feeling into the volume of space that the eyes inhabit. And then bringing attention to the crown, placing this high quality focus right into the crown as you are doing this breathing in a high quality way. And see if you can find the ability to take any heaviness in the body. I focus on doing this particularly for myself in the neck, the eyes, and the brain today, and then offer all of that up. See if you can let it be held by the space above you. Letting any of the guidance that's available to you, if you relate to a power greater than your individual self. Sometimes people have very different ideas of what those supports are. So see if you could let yourself be guided and supported in a way that alleviates those spots that have a buildup, that have a vulnerability. Opening up the crown, breathing in a way that allows you to relax skull bones open into the day that's holding all of us. And then from here, we'll close this opening practice with sensing, if you're vertical, sensing how you are this vertical vessel between the above and the sky energy, the stars, and the earth, and how you are part of both. Sensing where you can make a choice to belong and be held. And if you're laying down, allowing your alignment with the earth to allow you to uptake earth energy and also relax into what is above. And then from here, as you're ready, we'll start with some eye exercises. So if you are in a position to be doing so, you could make some friction with your hands and either place your hands on your face, perhaps just near your face. Relaxing facial muscles open. And we'll start with some eye exercises here. So once you're ready, you can come back to stacking the skull bones and just getting a sense of how can you give that 10 or so pounds right to the top of your spine, studying if you have any forward head carriage going on, and then begin to look all the way up till you feel a stretch in the eyes. And then as you're ready, begin circling down to the right and then back up to the left. And it's a subtle distinction for some of us, but using looking as a way to ground yourself. So really letting the energy of the eyes move out and into the space around you. So you're increasing your proprioception, your ability to map your body in space and know where you are. So one of the places we have rich, just keep circling at your own pace, proprioceptive nerve endings is right in the suboccipitals, which is right at the base of skull bones and part of what moves the eyes. You might even be able to sense the suboccipitals supporting your movement here. When you're ready, close the eyes, take a soft, wide breath, hold for your comfort level at the top, and then exhale more than you inhaled, everything out. Pull the belly back, and then we'll keep going here, going the opposite way. So first look all the way up, and then taking your time, circle, looking at what is at each direction on the clock as a way to study the tension patterns in your eyes, to unravel tension in the eyes and bring what would the yogic term netra prakash, the light of the eyes. Bring the light of the eyes out through the eyes into the space around you. Keep breathing. And then when you're ready, closing eyes, taking that soft, wide breath, pausing when you're full for your own level of comfort, studying what is my comfortable edge, and then exhaling more than you inhale, clearing out. And then pausing again. And we'll do some diagonals. So just even doing this, we're stimulating across the midline of the brain, looking to the upper right and lower left. Keep going at your own pace, experimenting with looking as you're moving your eyes, really seeing what is there. Perhaps sometimes blinking my eyes helps me to relax my eyes. And then when you're ready, close eyes, take a very full, wide breath in, lift the ribs, and then exhale after you've held the breath for your level of comfort. Belly back. And then we'll do the opposite way. Look to the upper left and then lower right. Keep going back and forth. When you are ready, closing eyes, taking a very full, wide breath in, pause for your comfort level, and then exhale everything out. And then from here, begin to circle the nose as if you had a magic marker on your nose and you are drawing something in front of you. So again, orienting to environment, increasing your awareness of your body in space. And then just see how you can adapt this to meet where your neck needs this. So it might be a small circle, it might be a bigger circle, it might be slower. Separating the back teeth. Staying with this soft, wide breath. Calling in, focusing and feeling in balance. And then when you're ready, you could switch directions if you haven't already. Feeling into that nerve-rich area right at the base of skull bones, sending breath support there. And then when that feels complete, coming back to center. And then doing some axial rotation, looking over one shoulder and then the other without pushing, just honoring your edge. And then coming back to center, coming with the right arm up about shoulder, chest height, opposite arm on top, pressing the arms together, seeing where the shoulders fire, breathing into that, and then softening the shoulders down, moving the arms to the right and then back to center. And then keep going at your own pace. Can keep the chest relatively forward. It might come along for the ride a little bit, just seeing where you can sense any amount of the rhomboids, these muscles in between shoulder blades. And then come back to center and then just check out your axial rotation again. Inhale as if you had a yoga block on your head that you were lifting up to the ceiling, and just see any more space. I got some really nice space going to the right there from doing that. And then we'll take it to the other side. So you could bring the left forearm up, opposite arm on top, press the arms together, hands are active, shoulders down. Moving the arms to the left and then back to center. Keep going, placing your mind into what shows up in the tissues of the shoulder girdle on the right. And then arms come back together or to center, let the arms come down. And again, find that height, lifting your imaginary object and then looking, perhaps blinking and really coming into that practice of pulling the energy out through the eyes, seeing what is around you. Come back to center. And let's do some bird wing here. So it looks like, I think everyone here has done bird wing and arm glides with me, but we'll show it here so that we know the action when we're on the back, and I still haven't figured out how visible the demoing is. So let's do it. We're going to do bird wing on the back. So let's do it seated like you're holding a tray in front of you. Inhale here. And then on exhale, the forearms come out, the elbows pin into the side ribs, and then the shoulder and shoulder blade moves down. So I'm showing on one side, but we'll do it on both. Inhale back to stage one. And then exhale, the forearms come out, the elbows pin in, shoulders down, shoulder blades down. And then keep going at your own pace, perhaps even closing your eyes and then studying what shows up, squeezing elbows into side ribs, shoulders down. And you can adjust it to be smaller, to be softer. What feels the most nourishing to the tissue? So we have all this heart and lung meridian work happening when we work with these types of exercises. External rotation of the upper arms, which unwinds all of that forward furling in that we do when we're on devices. And then let the arms come back to center and relax. And so we'll do some arm glides here. Let's see if this works. So let the arms come out like so. Inhale here, and then exhale, the arms can glide out and up. If you start to hike the shoulders, you've gone too far. So just go as far as you can that the shoulders stay relatively stable. Inhale, exhale, arms glide out and up. So we're gonna repeat this on the back, adding in some core stuff. Inhale, arms by torso, palms forward. Exhale, arms glide out and up. Sensing how the shoulders connect into the back body and wherever else you can track. And again, keep going at your own pace. Seeing how you can sense movement as nourishment, shifting, whatever you need to shift if that's not what's happening. And then let the arms relax, pausing here. And then just give yourself time to uptake that opening sequence. And then we'll come to a seat. So you can come to, let me know if you cannot hear me. You can unmute yourself. Okay, great, thank you. Let's do feet together, knees wide. And then pressing the feet together, particularly the inner edges of the feet together, keeping that very dynamic. And then from here, we'll come into unlocking the hips. So you can take the right hand to the inner thigh, close up to the hip, and the opposite hand about 16 inches back behind you. Inhale, lift the chest, and then on exhale, pressing down and away, sensing that inner leg line. And you can take any movements here that help you to stay as struggle-free as possible in the neck. So maybe it's chin to chest, maybe it's looking forward, relaxing internally first, and then taking a very nourishing breath. And we'll take that to the other side. So you can come back to center, ground the pelvis into the earth as a way to rebound up. And then take the left hand to the inner thigh, close up to the hip, and the opposite hand back behind you. Inhale, lengthen the abdominals, and then exhale, press down and away. Feet active. If that left hip popped up, plug it back down. And then just checking out, how can you support your neck? How can you keep balancing focus and feeling? And then from there, come on back up. And you could grab a hold of your rolled up object. And if it's just not working with the roll, you can just leave it to the side. So we're gonna come onto the back. If you're using blocks or objects for your arm glides, just have them within reaching distance. And you can come into half shavasana, laying down on the back. And then grab onto your rolled up object and hold on to it between the inner thighs. So mine is, I have to roll it a lot to get hips width distance, so I'm just gonna play around until that feels doable. And then we'll do some work with the bird wing. So hug the upper arms to the side body. Palms are facing, if you were standing, they'd be facing up, so they're facing behind you. Inhale, and then pin the back bottom ribs to the mat. And then as you exhale, squeeze your prop, if you're squeezing, if you have a prop, and then bring the arms out into bird wing. Squeeze the elbows in. Inhale to stage one. Exhale, squeeze the prop, lift the pubic bone, bring the arms out, elbows in. Inhaling to stage one, broaden back bottom ribs. Exhale, forearms out, squeeze the elbows in, shoulders and shoulder blades move down the back. And again, finding a soft neck as much as possible. If you find you're using your neck, use your feet instead. Press into the ground with your feet. And then do a few more at your own pace, finding fluidity. And then pause. You can rest the hands on the torso or by the torso. Check out what's going on. And then from there, if you're using blocks for your arm glides, you can grab them or objects. And then place one object in each palm, or you can simply do this with the palms facing up. Either way, it's great. You can keep the prop between your thighs if you're using that. Otherwise, you can focus on the lift of the pubic bone. So pick your objects off the ground a couple inches. Inhale, ground the back bottom ribs. Exhale, glide the arms out and up. Squeeze your prop, lift the pubic bone. Inhale to stage one. Arms by torso. Exhale, arms glide out and up. Belly engages. Inhale, stage one. Exhale, arms glide out and up. And then again, keep going at your own pace. And when that feels complete, place your blocks to the side, place your prop to the side, and take a moment sensing how you may have more accuracy and focus of where your body is in space as a result of the movement combined with the props. And then from here, we'll come into a version of bridge where we are flowing a bit that we do sometimes. One of the things I've been playing with, as those who come to my class know, we work a lot on that hamstring insertion place. One thing I've been playing with is bringing the feet a little wider than hips width distance to really light up that area, and it's been working. So if you like, you can either come to hips width distance or slightly wider if that feels okay in your knees. Check in with yourself, and then bring the outer edges of the feet parallel to each other. Find any fashion that lets the upper body be as relaxed as possible, and then inhale, root your back bottom ribs, broaden your side ribs, and then on exhale, root into your feet, lift the hips up into a low bridge, and then lower down. And then those of us who have some back compression and tightness, you can let that give you information, perhaps opening. Keep going at your own pace. I'm enjoying right now finding my hands to my side ribs, cueing myself to keep my ribs stable, lowering down. And then pressing into the heels a lot. I use this cue for myself of as if I was going to try to dent the ground. And that really helps me to press the ground away. Doing a few more at your own pace, letting the breath lead. Feeling for the sacrum, any information you can gather with your movement. And when that feels complete, pause. And you can do this with a strap or an object, or improvise with just holding the leg here. Let's look a little bit more deeply into the hamstring. So a lot of times we do stretches for hamstrings, forward bending, which that can work really great, but the beauty of doing them supine is that you can keep the back safer and grounded. So keeping that same broadening of the back ribs as you take the left knee into the chest. And you can start by just hugging knee to chest and perhaps circling, feeling into the flexion in the hip, into the knee. And then straightening the leg, holding onto the hamstring or holding behind the leg. And we'll do some resistance moves here. So begin to keep your back bottom ribs grounded, shoulders as soft as possible, neck soft. Press the thigh into the hand and the hand into the thigh. Let some resistance build. You could play around with the placement of the hands or the prop. And then letting the resistance go, seeing what shows up. And you could do that a few times so that you're getting into this relationship with your hamstring. And then when that's feeling like you can pause that for now, taking the strap, perhaps walking up and down the foot a bit, settling the strap into the arch of the foot and begin to circle as if you were drawing on the ceiling with a marker attached to your foot. And using the strap to pour a quality of weight into the sacrum and the low back on the left. You can let the circles be small and let them grow, improvising. And then from there, you can either keep the right foot grounded or extend the right leg across the floor. Either way, root the foot and then take the left leg out to the side. Check out what's happening with your back ribs. Can you ground the back ribs as you're working here? Reaching through inner leg and outer leg, lighting up your awareness of everything we walked through in the beginning of practice. And then when you're ready, taking that leg back through center, giving it another moment to come towards the torso, opening into the back line of the leg. Wherever that shows up, it's showing up a lot in my calf insertion, back of the knee. And then perhaps playing with plantar flexion, pointing, and dorsiflexion, toes towards shins, coming back and forth. Taking any other movements with the ankle. And then we'll take that to the other side. So beginning with knee to chest, feel into the flexion in the hip, flexion in the knee, holding, breathing into the hip, noticing the difference in the two sides. And then when you're ready, extending up, holding on behind the hamstring or using a prop. And playing with some resistance move here. So pressing hand into thigh, thigh into hand, playing with the placement of the hand. And then seeing, letting go of the resistance, is that leg willing to come any amount more towards torso. And then from there, taking your strap or improvising with how you're going to do this, beginning to circle the leg, using the strap to pour weight into the right sacroiliac joint, the right hip and low back. And then from there, reaching up, move the thigh bone away from the hip joint, opening the leg out to the side. And you can decide, you can either externally rotate a bit or keep the foot, keep the neutral quality of the thigh as you take the leg out, meaning not externally rotating it purposefully. And then notice, are your back ribs coming up? Bring them back down so you can get more accurate information about your hip. And then from there, taking the leg back to center, releasing the leg. Taking a feeling breath here, and then rolling onto one side, coming up to stand. Sorry, I lost myself for a moment. Where, oh, I'm right here. Okay. All right, so there is a teacher named Katie Bowman who I know some of you I've talked to about, and if you ever want to get enthusiastic about stretching your calves, look her up, and it's like everything with back health and alignment. So let's do some calf work. So this is where any kind of object might be able to come in handy. So I'm going to play with my towel, and you can come from Tadasana. We'll do that internal rotation to set up, and take the ball of the foot forward and begin to play with where does your weight need to be till you start getting into some opening. And similar to our hamstring work, noticing what you're doing with the rest of your body as you're working into your calf. So actually, as I lifted my back heel, I started to get in there. So it's so unique to everyone, but giving yourself some high quality time doing this, if you could, every day, is going to help the pelvis find optimal stability and optimal alignment. Sensing that kicking through the heel, the hamstring insertion, the lowest fibers of the glutes firing to help you keep the posterior chain dynamic. Finding that soft, wide breath so the upper body is as struggle-free as possible because of that support of earth, pelvis, and legs. And then when you're ready, go ahead and give yourself a moment, see what did that do, and we'll take it to the other side. So bringing the ball of the foot onto your prop, pouring some weight till it shows up. And just noticing where does that back foot need to be to get optimal degree of sensation, opening into the posterior chain, kicking through that sit bone, back of the knee line. And then checking out, are you looking in this way that helps you to stay oriented to present time? So you're feeling and you're focusing. Coming back to center. And then we'll, similarly, coming into plantar flexion is also a hugely beneficial type of stretch that we can do here. So you can take one leg back, and if you don't do this often, it can get crampy if you're new to it or for any kinds of reason of what's going on in the tissues. So make it smaller if it feels painful or crampy. And again, notice what you're doing with the upper body. Placing your mind into where the foot meets the ankle, that top of the ankle. When that feels complete, give yourself a moment, take it to the other side. This is definitely one that many people will experience a different side to side. Right foot, especially if you drive any amount, is going to be different. When that feels complete, coming back to center. We're going to come into twisting lunge. So if you're using blocks, you might want them. And we're going to do archer arms. So I'm going to give some variations, but if you use a strap for archer arms, you might grab something to do that with. So twisting lunge, we'll come into making two 90-degree angles with the legs. So you're coming into a real stable version of this. And then find the hands to hold on to the pelvis. So you're really sensing, where is my lower body in space? And then from there, lifting the ribs, coming forward. Option to either take the elbow outside the thigh. I like to make a fist and blanket it. You could do prayer hands, or open the arms. Notice if that left hip wants to wing out. See if you can track the hip back and down to stabilize. And then from there, building your skills, focusing into feeling the breath, using your basic moves to stay present, bringing the back of the head towards the upper right-hand corner of the mat, And then unwind your twist. We'll come into nomad's pose. So straightening into the left leg. Again, tucking that hip back and down. Props or objects, optional. Lengthening and folding forward. And then you can play with that alternating of toes towards shin and then pointing to keep teasing out awareness and nourishing the tissues. And then another activation that I really like is pressing into the heel, contracting the heel back towards the sit bone to awaken the back line of the leg. Check out what's happening in the upper body. Can you soften shoulders away from ears? And then from here, bringing the torso up, we're going to transition into legs of low lunge. So coming back to those 290 degrees and then seeing where your hips are willing to go forward. So if you need extra padding, you can fold the mat in or use your blanket or towel and just see where you can get into the front of the hip. Options, hands could stay on props, arms could reach out and up. And then turn on your breath. So you're running energy throughout your pose. So you're pulling in fresh energy to heart and lungs, spreading it throughout the whole body. You can have arms straight or wide like you're holding a big ball. And then from there, releasing your lunge, and we'll come through low cobra. So you can come through your plank, either knees up or knees down. Shoulders away from the ears, crown of the head lengthening forward, lowering down with control, elbows come next to ribs. Lift your right leg, lengthen back. Use that awareness of the fibers of the hamstrings inserting into the sit bone area. Do that on both sides. And then hands, let's do very low cobra. Hands at middle ribs. Press into hands and feet, chest forward and up. And then pausing here, bringing the gaze either to the mat or slightly forward. See what's the most struggle-free variation. Keep reaching through the posterior chain. And then pull the hands towards the feet to lower down. Hands under shoulders, press back into downward facing dog. So our first down dog of the practice. Taking a couple breaths here, sensing this foundation, giving energy to the earth, pressing into the earth, sensing how the tissues respond. And then we'll take that vignette on the other side. So we'll come into twisting lunge, right leg comes forward. Finding the hip points square, feet dynamically pressing into the ground. Lift the ribs and then come forward, either elbow outside the thigh or opening the arms. Noticing what's happening in the hips, tracking the right hip back and under. Inhale, lengthening. Exhale, finding rotation. And then checking out your gaze, setting your gaze to one thing. Relaxing internally, broadening the ribs. And then lowering the lifted arm, coming into nomad's pose, straightening the front leg, perhaps grabbing your props. Tracking the hip back and under, and then from there, lengthening first and then folding. And if you feel like you can get more space, lengthening again and then folding. Alternating dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, pointing and flexing. And then if you like, pressing into the heel, tractioning the heel back, seeing if that gives you some awakening, sensing into calf, back of knee, hamstring, sit bone muscles. And then from there, bringing the torso up, we'll come into low lunge. So sensing where are my hips willing to go forward and start to see what shows up into the quads. But still keeping tailbone down, pubic bone lifting. Arms could reach up, either straight or wide. Either way, hands are active. So you're using your active hands to move energy from heart all the way into the space above, the space around. And then from there, you can either take another low cobra. If you are warm enough to do up dog, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, low cobra, lowering down, using your core, doing your self-assist, reaching the thigh bone away from the hip, internally rotating the thigh bones. And you can either stay with very low cobra, hands at middle ribs, or come to cobra, hands under shoulders. Either way, keep the legs solidly working. Heart reaches forward and up. Pulling the hands towards the feet. Feel the triceps respond, lowering down, and then coming through table and into downward facing dog. Bringing front ribs towards back ribs, so you're rooting the front core line towards the back body. And we'll come into warrior one with arch your arms. So left leg can come forward. If you are going to use your prop, take it with you. And then just see where your feet are. Hips with distance. If you need to adjust, you can come onto the ball of the back foot if you have knee or back or hip tweakiness. And then we'll come into right arm up. Taking the arm either behind the back of the head or the upper back. Getting a hold of both parts of the strap or connecting hands. And then just noticing if you're sticking the ribs out, just as if we were on the mat. Ground the back bottom ribs, which knits the front ribs in. Kick through the back heel, feeling that hugging of muscle to bone on the back leg. And then breathe into the nucleus of the right shoulder. Wrap the bicep towards the ear and reach the elbow to the ceiling and beyond. Breathe into the whole left shoulder, and then exhale, contract the left shoulder blade down the back. So we have some options here. Option one is staying right here, reaching through both elbows, keeping the legs grounded. Option two, doing all of that, but coming into humble warrior, folding either inside the thigh or onto the thigh. Look at your right inner leg and use that gaze to light up the inner leg line on the right. Checking out that left hip, keeping it down and under to stabilize. And then from here, use your core to come up. And then from there, straightening the front leg. Option here, either take yourself through a vinyasa or come right back into downward facing dog. And then when you're ready, right foot steps forward. Sense using your core so you're not using your neck with that transition. Set up your warrior one legs. Square the chest forward and the hips to wherever they're willing to go. Left arm is up, using your prop if you like. Internally rotating the right arm to get a hold of the strap. And then again, breathe in a way that helps you to study, can I knit my front ribs in to get more accurate information about my shoulders. On your next exhale, wrap the left bicep towards the ear, reach the elbow to the ceiling. Breathe into the right shoulder blade. On exhale, contract the right shoulder blade down the back. Using that opposition of reaching one elbow up and one elbow down to light up the awareness of the chest and shoulders. And then decide, you can either stay right here, this is plenty, or you could fold into humble warrior, torso inside the thigh or onto the thigh. And then from there, use your core, neck stays relaxed. Come on up, release the bind. Straighten the front leg, and then same choice, either a final vinyasa for this practice or coming right back into downward facing dog. Once you're in down dog, please bring your legs as wide as your yoga mat. And then take the heels out a bit more. So playing with the hamstring work that we've done already. You can play with bent knees and just get a sense of breathing in a way that helps you to bring more awareness into everything from feet through to pelvis, sit bone, muscles, hamstrings, knees. And if you like, you could then bring the feet back to hips width distance, and with a lot of focus, kick the right foot into the ground. That will help you lift the left leg with a lot of focus. Keep the hips square at first, bend the left knee, and then externally rotate, keeping the chest fairly square. And then taking any movements here to nourish the tissues in the left hip. Studying internal rotation, external rotation. And then again, with a lot of focus, extending the leg back, move the thigh bone away from the pelvis, bring the pinky toe down to reset. We'll take that on the other side, kick into the left foot to help you lift the right leg, noticing that way of using ground force action to create struggle-free movements. Bending into the knee, externally rotating the hip, playing with nourishing the tissues in the hip. And then again, when you're ready, moving thigh bone away from hips, so you're making the transition itself therapeutic, possibly. Bring the leg down, take another breath, and then find your way onto your back. And we'll come into Paschimottanasana on the back. So again, Paschimottanasana is usually seated, but when you use it on the back, you can steady, keeping the back ribs very grounded, legs reach straight up to the ceiling, and then just getting a hold of wherever feels the most interesting and struggle-free, taking the legs towards the torso. And you can titrate this with bringing the legs towards torso and then letting go, so you can see how the fibers of the back line of the legs best respond. And then from here, releasing, giving the knees a hug, taking any movement side to side or front and back. Next pose is Shavasana. So setting up whatever would be the most nourishing shape for your Shavasana. And then really feeling the energetic threshold that you transition through to Shavasana, which for many of us is the most advanced pose of practicing letting go, practicing the let go process. Whatever part of that can you do to let yourself be held by your home, the earth, and let your spirit and your heart be held by the home of the body. And knowing this self-organizing principle of nature is also you. And as you rest, that process is happening. Beginning to add a little breath to your inhale. As you're ready, taking yourself onto one side, pressing into the ground to come back up. Feel for giving the weight of the pelvis over to the ground, sensing earth energy below you, spreading your toes, feeling the space where the feet meet the ankles, and then bringing the awareness all the way back up to the crown. Relaxing skull bones open to reconnect to the above space of the stars and the sky, and sensing yourself as belonging to both. And also to this circle of practice. And then if you like, you could bring the hands to touch to seal our time together. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Let's